Hey, everybody, it's Robbie Bessner, and I'm back with an amazing guest on the Healthy Hotline and part of our Lyme series. Yes, it's the month of May 2021. Every single day we have a rocking all-star, and today, one of my favorites, Dr. Simone Laubscher. She's a nutritionist, she's a philanthropist, she's born in Australia, lived in UK, now she's in Dubai. Global reach with her touch and her nutrition. It's truly amazing the amount of formulations that you have come up with in a short time on Earth Camp, as I call it. My favorite stuff of all time, her company is Rejuve. You can find her at rejuve.co.uk. That she has the most beautiful website, and her formulations are none to beat. I have you here today for a few reasons. One, because of our friendship, and secondly, because of your professional approach to the world. But nutrition is such an important part of everybody's health and well-being. But in particular, the Lyme community, everybody watching, you've got a parasite, you have an imbalance of organisms in your microbiome. And the nature of these organisms, designed by nature, is to sort of gobble up your waste products and do all these other things, and that's when they're in sort of sync or in a somewhat of a balance. But when you get imbalanced, that's when you become symptomatic, and that's also when many of these organisms start using your life resources. They leave you nutritionally depleted.
Yeah.
And so what Dr. Simone has to offer today are some helpful hints as to the way to sort of grab that lifeline and work our way back to good health. So Dr. Simone, welcome to the Healthy Hotline. Welcome to the series. Thank you for your time and contribution to the world, and certainly to our campaign. Give us a little background about Dr. Simone Laubscher, like where, how did you come to today? Just a few minutes there, and then let's just dive right in.
Sure. Thank you, as always, dear friend, for the great introduction. So, yes, born in Australia. My dad's half English, half German, so kind of European background, and went off to finish school very young, about 18 months younger than I should have. My mom, my brother is a year and a week younger than me, so my mom, I think, was a bit overwhelmed. My sister was already at school, and so she pushed me off to school, and I never repeated at school. So I finished school earlier than the average person. And so I went off to university, to Sydney University, and then I switched majors about 5 times. I did everything from science, marine biology, civil engineering, and I was jumping. And my dad was like, whoa. If you don't know what you want to do, take a gap year and then think about it. So that's what I did. And then in that gap year, I decided, because I had unfortunately suffered from eating disorders. So then I thought, right, you know what? I want to get well, and I really want to sort myself out and then go on to help heal others. So that's why I did a science degree as a base, my first bachelor in science and nutrition. And then I was kind of going along with that, did a master's in that. And then my mom years later got cancer. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've just spent 3 years bachelor, 2 years master's, and I don't know anything about cancer. So I went back and did some more post-grad study on cancer. So my life has been kind of organic like that. My whole career has just kind of moved like that, versus it being kind of like, when you hit 17, you know what you want to do with your life. So I think good advice, if anyone's out there still studying, and it doesn't matter what age you are, but there's no hurry, sit with it, and then you will hear and find your wow as to why you're on the planet. So that's who I am. So after my studies, moved to London. I felt my roots calling me there, and which everyone thought I was mad, leaving Australia to grey, cold London. And then I lived there for, so I went there in my mid-20s, stayed there for 20 years, met my husband there, had my 3 babies there. So it kind of feels more like home than anywhere else. It's where I've lived my adult life. And then now we're in the UAE. And so, yeah, I'm the founder with my hubby, Dirk, of Rejuve Wellness. So we're just it makes it so easy to get out of bed like you in the mornings, because we just love setting people free of disease and poor health. I mean, it's just, there is no other greater gift for me. It's totally why I've been born. So that's kind of what I do. I'm just here to, and we don't claim to cure anything. We make the patient so healthy, their body cures themselves whatever they need to, which was the inherent design of humans, to actually be well, not to be sick. So we're kind of like the catalyst to transform people's lives, to support their natural healing ability.
And people can get to you, that you have an Instagram site that's so cool. The information that you put out, you have a blog, you have a newsletter. You really, everybody out there needs to check out your website, because it's full of such important information. And it's sort of like when I went through it, it really organized my thinking, because you kind of take us through a journey of how all of these parts fit together to create a full, robust, healthy platform. And that's really kind of where I want to start today, because you have a step 1, 2, 3 sort of process to go through all this. And tell us what that means a little bit, how you get to that, like where are you centered? Who's the most important thing? Is it getting the Lyme out of your body, or taking care of your body first? Which way do you go?
We have to focus on the patient first. It doesn't matter about cancer, Lyme, different fruit, same root. It's an imbalance. It's dis-ease. The body's out of balance. So if we originally, when I first started treating Lyme's patients over 20 years ago, I was chasing after the Lyme, and there was a war on Lyme, and everyone was like chasing after this, this ghost. And then I kind of had an epiphany going, oh my gosh, like with my cancer patients, we have to treat the patient first. If the patient gets strong, we open up those detox pathways, we remove the other biofilms, the other little partners in crime Lyme will use to bring the patient down. And then we get their head in the game and get them to kind of balance that out and live, so they're asymptomatic. All my Lyme's patients live, as I said, if they go on a bender, or they don't sleep enough, or they run themselves down, of course, things can bubble up. But if we keep their life in balance, not living perfect, but if we kind of keep their weeks clean, have a bit of fun on weekends, then normally you can get that flow and you can live nicely together. And that's why when we look at a patient, step number 1, remove the 3R principle, is we remove anything which could be triggering. So if it's environmental toxin, whether it's your diet, whether it's toxic thinking, and then we rebuild like a home improvement. Like if you come in and you buy a new home, and then you just slap a bit of paint and you paint over the mold and don't really go into the foundations and restore those foundations, your house will make you sick. Totally. So same thing with the body. We can't just scratch the surface. We need to go in and have a look at the foundations. And then after we rebuild, we restore and find that balance. And we look at a patient from 7 angles. So with our 7 pillars. So nutrition, their sleep, and nutrition, obviously water is really important, which is why we love your Therasage H2O. It's so important, that nanotechnology, to hydrate. So our nutrition, getting good sleep, making sure their environment isn't making them sick. It doesn't matter how much green juice you drink if you're in a toxic environment. Your mindfulness, same thing. Doesn't matter how, you might as well eat a burger if you're going to have toxic thinking. You have to get your head in the game, as well as body balance. A lot of people forget about the structure of the skeleton, of just making sure there's enough space for the organs and everything to function correctly. The house is kind of, we're all sitting there. My husband calls it, he treats so many young kids now for texting neck. Everyone's kyphotic and like a little squirrel, so opening up, getting the body back into balance. Movement, of course. I love our mutual friend, Elle McPherson, who's my business partner with Welco. She was instrumental. I was so sick of exercise, and I used to run on the treadmill, and I was so disconnected. I would put my device, whatever it was, and I would work. And I would run on the treadmill, and I'd be running at like 14 kilometers an hour, so pretty fast. But I would just be working, and I was like, Elle calls it like a lab rat. I was just, the body was moving, but there was no connection. So movement, doing something you love, and intuitively, if like today we all as a family went to the gym, but I haven't been since last week because we've been horse riding and swimming and doing other things. So give yourself permission to find the balance. So we look at you, and supplementation is key because the world over farming and our diet is not as good. So we look at you from the 7 pillars and we take you through those 3 steps. And I love that phrase, we're all identically different, because your journey is bespoke to you, but there's still 11 systems, 50 trillion cells, 7 pillars, 3 steps to remove, rebuild, and restore. So I think, like any topic, I've been doing this for 23 years, it was so overwhelming and so complex at the beginning of my career. And then after treating so many patients, you start to find these protocols to simplify what you're doing.
Wow. That's fundamental and foundational. And treating the patient, like even on just taking nutrition, just breaking that part out.
Yeah.
If you don't have your detox pathways set up, then, and you're not pooping and you're not doing all that stuff, then you're not quite getting all the nutritional upload from all the money that you're putting into such great supplements like your line, for instance. Yeah. So you really kind of have to understand the order to do the things in, and you do it step by step. Yeah. And then, like you say, we're all the same, but all different. And everybody out there in Lymeland, even their way their bodies interpret their symptoms per se is different. Yeah. So, it's super important to understand that, to identify that even though we're different and we're expressing differently, there are certain housekeeping things that we all are the same about, that we have to have fundamentally in place in order for us to really be able to really be the best version of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So we've got Lyme patients that potentially could be herxing and they're in bed and they're depressed. And then we've got Lyme patients that kind of figured part of it out, and every so often they have an episode here and there. And I love the way you put it, because let's say we get to the point where we kind of figured it out. We have the nutrition thing down, we have the movement thing down, and all that. And then we just have a cheat day. And then because of that, you pay, like we all do. All of us do. It doesn't matter whether you have Lyme or not.
Yeah.
And so the thing about that's a little different that I find with the chronic Lyme patients is that, they, in the middle of their day where they have a whole day planned, all of a sudden they'll have an onset of an episode and they didn't plan on it. So their day is somewhat kind of spent because they have to give in to the way that they feel, which I think is probably the appropriate behavior. And so really it goes back to, if you have a strong foundation, and it's kind of like I asked many of my friends, how are you doing today? Well, I'm having a good day. Well, are you having more good days than bad days? Yeah. And so when you're chronic, you have more bad days than good days. But the way that you can use, or what you can use as a barometer, is when that shift occurs, right? There's a tipping point where all of a sudden I'm having more good days than bad days. Then I don't remember when I had a bad day. And that's really the ultimate goal. And we have to all give ourselves time to get there. And so that's part of it. When you're chronic, you get impatient because you're sick of being sick, Mm-hmm. And really that's why you're so important to all of us to have a little bit of Dr. Simone in our lives, because I do that every year, by the way. Every year I get stuck on some herb. Last year it was chlorella. And I said, gee, I love this herb and it really resonates for me. And I just need more chlorella in my life. So today I want everybody to have a little bit more Dr. Simone in their lives. So let's keep going with our story here, because I love the idea of making peace with Lyme, because that's really what it is. And we have, a multiplex of organisms that live in sync in our bodies, and we need them. Yeah. And Lyme, like Streptococcus, like pneumonia, like Epstein-Barr, like all of these little viruses and bacteria, they all run around. And the key is, if our immune system is strong, it stays in check and there isn't created the imbalances. And so let's keep going. What's the heartbeat? Where is the heartbeat of this discussion? So we have your line. Yeah, let's dive in a little more.
Yeah, I think that It's like even now in the UAE, you know, everyone's fasting. I mean, I do a fast twice a year, a seasonal cleanse. Always this time of year, just happens to coordinate with Ramadan over here. And so many people are fasting, and I just find it extraordinary that people would live their life all year, fast, but not think about the detox pathway and supporting their body, and then stay up all night eating until the sun rises, eating everything junk. So I think it's the same thing, that if you're going to cleanse and nourish and heal the body, you have to think about that detox pathway 1, number 2, particularly of the liver, phase 1, phase 2, because otherwise it's like getting a dusty rug, shaking it, but all the windows are sealed. It's like a spring cleaning, and it's like, okay, let's spring clean the house, and you shake this rug and then everything just settles, you know, all around the house again. It just doesn't make any sense. So what I find is that if you've got 2 patients, both get Lyme, and one goes down like a ton of bricks and the other one has kind of the general bit of fatigue and maybe a rash and feeling overwhelmed, maybe feeling like brain fog, you know, mind, body, depression. And so it was always like, okay, what is the difference? And I think the first port of call is those detox pathways, because the body is already suppressed, and then you throw something like Lyme on top. It's the last straw that breaks the camel's back. I don't think it's like the Lyme, which is like totally taken that person out. I think it's been a slow fade, and then the Lyme on top of everything else has pushed them over the edge. I mean, there's always cases which doesn't come in line with that, but majority of what I've seen is normally the Lyme is an opportunist and jumps on the back and can have, because he's an anaerobic guy. It loves the oxygenated, dark, you know, mucus, acidic environments, so it can hide out. It's a perfect little cave. So if you're kind of eating lots of meat and dairy, if you're having lots of sugar, lots of junk, lots of alcohol, lots of coffee, and all those things are fab if you have it once a week for fun. It's just if you're having a lot of it every day, then the whole system is inflamed and the pathways are blocked. So you add Lyme to that, and then you're in a real pickle. I know that a lot of people are diagnosed incorrectly with the fibromyalgia people and so many other issues in the background, and why Lyme is often not picked up. But I do feel that if we start with removing the toxins, which would be blocking the pathways, and we start to open up those rivers, you know, because those pathways are like rivers of life. It's the same thing if you go on a hike. You're walking along and then you see this lovely flowing river with fresh running water off the glacier in the mountain. I mean, it's magical. And then you come to another part and it's stagnation, and then the water can't get through, and you've got flies and kind of a film of scum on top of the bit of water. Same thing with the human body. Either we have stagnation or we're in flow. And I think that is normally where I start with the Lyme's patient. And then same thing with going into a Herxheimer. We don't just go, detox like crazy. I mean, you could take a patient feeling pretty bad and make them feel like they're on death's door. So we take them by the hand. We open up the pathway. We see how they react. We take it easy. There is no kind of hard and fast kind of protocol that I'm all about getting the journey done, getting you up and over your mountain, but I'm not about suffering and dragging people through hell. I just do not operate like that at all. So I think we have a plan. I always say to the patient, your wellness journey is yours. I'm just going to support you and cheer you on and give you everything you need in your backpack to get up and over your mountain to bring about the healing. So I think I love to start with the detox pathways. I love using supplements for that. I love using food for that, garlic, burdock root, with our liver support capsules, nettle, dandelion. I love all those herbs, Ayurvedic herbs and Chinese herbs. Supporting the lymphatics as well. A lot of people forget about that and they just do the kind of the classic liver and the gallbladder. So have a look at all of your filtration systems, support the kidneys, support the liver and the gallbladder and the lymphatics, and get those systems, get the waterworks working, get them going to the loo, make sure they have good peristalsis and transit time, get them pooping. and get them sweating. Oh my gosh, get them in your sauna. I love the ultimate backdoor of detox because your skin's your biggest organ. And if you can start releasing toxins through the skin, you don't have to do the enema. You don't have to sit in the loo all day. It's not painful. You do something else while you're in there, or pray, meditate, or watch something, and you sweat. I mean, it's such, as I said, it's the ultimate backdoor. I love it. I'm in there almost every day, I am. So I think doing all those things to step one, meet the patient where they're at, and the stronger the symptoms, the slower you go. It's like when you say with the sauna, sometimes you do low and slow. I'm the opposite side of the spectrum, but I'm well. If someone's poorly, many roads lead to Rome. Choose your road, change it, mix it up if you need to. But it is a journey. Sometimes, if you're in the car, you stop, you have a cup of tea, you keep going, you stop for lunch, you keep going. Sometimes you're on the motorway and you're going super fast. Other days on a country road and you're going slow. Just embrace it and go at your own pace. And I think from that, you start to work mind and body as a team. And then the patient starts to heal on the journey. You don't just kind of get to the last result and then the patient's, it's a magical wand, slowly on the journey.
Yeah, we live in this sort of fast-paced
Google.
magic bullet kind of, yeah, exactly.
Instant
Google this,
gratification.
search that. So exactly. So we just think we can hit a button and all this stuff goes away. For all of you out there that aren't English or don't know what a loo is, as Dr. Simone mentioned, that's the bathroom. Okay. So yes, the bathroom is an important place for observation. And,
Totally.
as good as we all are in our approaches to getting better, the best doctor on the planet is the one inside of you. And so you have to listen to that voice, to start to listen to that voice. I believe that's an important part of it. And that's why it's really important, this part of our discussion, because even as good as you are with your protocols, the person needs to understand how their body is interpreting that. And that is really the setting the pace for how quickly you can recover. So, I've always, when I coach younger Lyme patients, adolescents, I say, hey, you got the best thing going for you. You're young. You got your youth. You got all that stuff going for you. And the more symptomatic you are, it could have been that you got exposed to Lyme 10 or 15 years ago, and it took that long to build up before you became symptomatic. And then you had an emotional event, or you had a physical and emotional event, or just a physical event. It pushed you over the top. Your immune system got suppressed, and bam, all of a sudden you get hit like someone threw a brick at the back of your head. And, we're looking or searching for what happened, but it's really an accumulation of many, many years of just buildup.
Yeah.
So that stuff doesn't go away overnight. You got to be patient, and you have to listen to your body. And even as brilliant as you are developing the steps, for my body, maybe I could breeze through step 1 through 3 in 3 weeks, 1 week at a time. But for someone else, they may have to hang with step 1 for a little bit until their body catches up. But the body has a unique way of healing. And I often believe that for the chronic patient, sometimes when you're sort of stuck, like now, I believe many people are stuck in this sympathetic dominance mode. Their brain waves are focused on beta and they can't seem to switch out. And I think what happens is that the body kind of loses its GPS, like the guidance system. It doesn't forget it. It just kind of someone switched it off, or maybe all the epigenetics caused little snips and things, these switches to get switched off. But once you start to switch them on, especially with a program like yours, it's incredible how exponentially the body jumps in. Oh, I remember that. I remember that. And all of a sudden, you're back on track. So a dear friend of mine, one of my mentors, who's not with us now, but Dr. Bob Marshall, who created the whole line of Primo Research Labs, he was like a mechanic type guy, and he often used an analogy, and he talks about when you buy your Ferrari or Maserati, as all of our bodies basically are, we're built like 12-cylinder speed cars, right? Yeah. And you drive it out. As soon as you drive it out of the showroom, you start to wear down the parts. What's cool about cars is that, especially now, you can bring it into your mechanic. They plug it into a computer. It says, oh, you're missing this, you're missing that. This part is worn down and so forth. They replace the parts. And then bam, you drive out. And it's almost like when it comes out of the mechanic, it's like you were brand new. Well, how about our bodies? Where are my parts? Where are my spare parts that are missing? Where do I plug myself in, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so important to be talking to you today, to let you know that there are foundational parts that we all share and that we can find our way back. We can turn that GPS system back on. And if we give ourselves those depleted nutritional support that has happened through age, through living, through the imbalances, Lyme, the co-infections and all that, man, you can really be optimal. And I think that is so important, and we're all striving for that these days.
Yeah.
So let's just segue a little bit into the emotional piece, because so many people leave that out. And I know you've just brushed on it briefly before, and it's such an important part of the total healing package. And so I know it's in one of your steps, and it's part of your presence. We all do it in different ways. When we pray, when in our religions, we various different applications of spirituality get there. And I have morning, I go in my sauna at 4:30, 5 o'clock before the sunrise. I ask for forgiveness. I set my intentions. I focus on what I'm grateful for. And it kind of gives me that foundational sense of heart that allows me to forge through the day of whatever life serves me at that moment. So give me your spin on emotional stuff, on emotional health, and why that's so important and how that fits into the whole healing package.
Yeah, I just found, particularly over the last 5 years of clinical practice, that because we always have a multi-targeted approach and strategy to the patient, and then we develop the 7 pillars, and particularly over the last 5 years, I've really started to move more into that mind-body connection. And then we're doing another master's degree, my hubby and I, in neuroscience. We've been so blown away with this new research. And like with Lyme, with cancer, any issue, if we don't think about the emotional root, then the patient gets well very slowly or never has great success. Of course, that can be generational, something you've received over the years, which was nothing to do with you. It could be some trauma of your own life, could be some sort of generational trauma. There's lots of different parts. But I don't get too stuck with who and how. Was I breastfed? What happened to granny? I don't get too fussed with the kind of the how behind. I just analyze and see what's going on. But often, like when you have other biofilms and other kind of rogues working as a team with Lyme, with your other parasites and Candida, what I've seen over the years, what I've seen in Chinese medicine, that often the emotional block that allows Candida and fungus to thrive in that damp environment is a feeling of being devalued. Either you devalue yourself, someone's told you you're not good enough, you're never going to amount to something, or you feel devalued. Maybe you let yourself down, you can't forgive yourself. So it could be external or internal. We all, I think, have a combination of both. So when it comes to that, I do look to see the other imbalances which are going with the Lyme. Maybe there's anger, which is liver. Maybe there's fear, it's kidney. Maybe it's grief, there's lung. I just kind of have all to see what are the other symptoms and what's as a package going together. And then, because, as I said, initially I chased after the Lyme, there was this war on Lyme, and then I realized that didn't work because Lyme is such a chameleon, such a ghost, so able to morph and shift, and it's like the ultimate shapeshifter you see on those sci-fi movies. It's just, you can never get a hold of it. 1 minute you think you got a hold and it, looks like an apple, now it's an orange, or, it's just totally, and you have to honor that. I mean, my gosh, what a survival technique. You kind of have to go, hats off, you're pretty awesome. So I think of looking at the general emotional roots of the illness combined with the other issues going on with the Lyme, work on that, and clear those emotional roots, and making peace with, because Lyme just wants a host. It's not, I think the energy is not here to kill us. It's just, it wants to have its corner of the world. I don't know why it was invented. I don't know why it's around. That's some questions, more questions we'll be asking the big guy upstairs or the mother or the father upstairs when we get there. But I think that from my own history of hunting Lyme down and having no success, then I encourage the patient to get your head in the game. And instead of having the fear, waking up every day, what am I feeling? Is it a rash? Is it fatigue? Is it brain fog? Is it depression? Is it breathing problems? Is it neurodegeneration? Like, what am I feeling today? You know what? No. We get them out of that place and we kind of start to think on purpose. You're thinking anyway. Let's get the mind body together. Let's get you in more parasympathetic in healing mode, get you out of emergency mode, out of the systemic. Not many of us live a life, thank God, on an average day where there is someone literally trying to kill us. Most people live a life quite peaceful without someone, a tiger in our kitchen every day, an intruder. Most of us don't live in emergency mode because of real life-threatening situations. But the body reads it like that. So it's kind of being wise and calming the nervous system down, bringing forth the healing, and getting your mind and body to go team for that patient. And once you start to bring that together, I love the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton with epigenetics. Every thought we have affects us at a cellular level. Getting a grasp on that, thinking on purpose, getting their head in the game, and almost like some of my patients write a letter to the Lyme. They have a frank conversation with the Lyme. They call the Lyme into their office and sit it down in a chair and say, okay, you're sticking around. You're here. You're not going far. Let's make a deal. You want to have your little dark corner and you want to live in my big toe wherever you want to go. And I'm happy to give you, if this is a hotel, I'm happy to give you a room or two. But I want my hotel to thrive. I want to still do everything I want to do with my kids, my family, my life, my call, whatever it is. But I'll give you a bit of space. So let's make a deal and let's go from there. And I'll make a deal that I won't run the hotel down and try to set fire to, say one thing and then set fire and try to burn you out and smoke you out. Let's kind of play nice. And then what I do is I explain to the patient, if we think about the aware ego, and we think about the different hats we all have, whether it's the eating disorder or, with the perfectionist and the rebel, or if you have the different parts, then we kind of have to know that the Lyme is going to be part of the system. And we have to play nice. So I encourage them to take a step back, or instead of just being, oh my gosh, I'm in Lyme mode. Take a step back. You are in your true essence of who you are, in your higher self, or whatever you want to call it, the real you. You're driving the bus. Lyme's not driving the bus. Your depression's not driving the bus. Your anger's not driving the bus. Your pain is not driving the bus. You're driving the bus. And you're going to make decisions balancing the 7 pillars, and they're all going to be on the bus. No one's getting off the bus. And I think the quicker we realize that they're here for the long haul, just kind of then start to, okay, how can we find our flow? How can we live together? How can I support myself? How can the Lyme have its cake and eat it too and not bother me and be asymptomatic? And that's what I really do. I love scream therapy, primal scream therapy. If you're just up to your eyeballs and cannot articulate it, give that trauma a voice. Scream it out as much as you need to. Use breath work. Take a bath. Go for a massage. Whatever it is, don't let that Lyme trauma, whatever, get stuck in your fascia and hold and block your healing. I'm all for letting stuff out.
Yeah. I have a punching bag, and sometimes when I get frustrated, I just put a little, like a little tape, a message on the punching bag, and then I just punch the heck out of my message, and I'm sort of punching that message out of my body, out of my brain. And so it empowers me, and just like you say, it puts me back in the driver's seat. Wow. Well, we only have a few minutes left, and I just love your contribution today, because there are so many foundational thought-provoking type of messages that you've left us with. With the few minutes we have left, did we leave anything out? I know we can go on for days.
I think the main thing with these critters, whether it's parasites, whether it's candida and fungus, is two things. It's cyclical, and they do roll with the moon. These guys will work with nature, with the fluid in our brain, the fluid in our bodies. So we have to incorporate. I don't worship the moon, but I honor the moon when it comes to our health. So I think if we're looking at Lyme, we're looking at mopping things up, opening up the detox pathways, respect the natural order of things, that parasites and fungus breed and have their moment over the full moon, because serotonin goes down. Serotonin goes up, melatonin goes down. That's why often we can't sleep well on the full moon. So if we know that's changing, which is the optimum environment for these guys to kind of run havoc. And if Lyme runs in it's almost like a pack of naughty boys. It's kind of like, kids, teenagers on the street, you've got the pack. If they're going to run with the pack, with these other biofilms, then let's kind of know and respect that. So hoover them up, like with our full moon parasite pack. Use the moon to your advantage to break those guys down, so load over the full moon. And I think, and looking at the blood-brain barrier, like with magnolia bark, something which will kind of go into the ends of the earth. Think about, as I said, the fascia, as a cellular level, and don't make it too complicated, but don't forget, with the detox pathways, with the parasites and the biofilms, and with the full moon, make sure you're using something like that to kind of deal with that galactin-3 and those inhibitors, to kind of make sure things are in order and don't kind of miss a few of those key steps. So I think the blood-brain barrier, and I think of the good old-fashioned IV infusions. Don't forget about those guys. Get your glutathione, get your, your, phosphatidylcholine, PC, get your good vitamin C, fast track some of those guys. Don't expect that if you just pooping every day that you're detoxifying well. You're probably not, because this is slow fade. It's been happening for a while. So get all those pathways open, but fast track with sweating. Use the moon. Look at who Lyme runs with and go after those guys to break down those counterparts, because then the Lyme will be happy to live by itself. It won't monopolize on the core condition of your health. Make peace with that, and then fast track, in addition with the sweating and good water and sunshine, of course, is the IVs. That is just such a fantastic way to support the immune system. Of course, using nutrition, but kind of look to see how you can fast track. If the line's coming and being aggressive and coming hard, you have to play hardball and also take your gloves off. But as I said, but ultimately say, look, I'm not going to kill you off. You do have a couple of rooms at the old, the OK Corral. You're allowed to be there, but I want to be well. I want to be there for my life. I want to fulfill my mission on this planet. I want to be there for my family. Let's make a deal. And I think that's where the freedom occurs. And it's, as I said, like living with herpes, herpes 1, herpes 2. Occasionally you get a cold sore because you've been too run down or whatever, but most of the time it lives in the background when you have your balance. So I think it's take that viewpoint and nourish and nurture. Don't be stripping yourself back and detoxing, detox and nurture, so you can, go from surviving to thriving. Make sure you're not just stripping out the soil all the time. Sow back in, And as you said before, what was it? The best doctor is inside of you. I love that phrase, because use your intuition. You know, if you're not sure, use the sway muscle testing. If you're really too in your head, use the sway method. Hold something up, practice going around the supermarket, around the kitchen. You know, open up the pathway. My name is. Say a false statement. My name is. Use your name. Pathway's open. You know, even every day is different. This morning I had an amazing bit of papaya. Yesterday my body didn't want it. So if you too in your head, cut your head off and use your intuition and use the sway method. Often that's better than doing muscle testing, because people are like, oh my gosh, was that a yes or a no? Breathe, use your intuition. If you need to, use the sway method and start to go on this journey and be gentle and kind to yourself. And then normally you can live well with your lodger.
Amazing. You know, this, I call it like the psycho suck, you know, like we get sucked into this psychology where you're just got this circle of, I've got Lyme, I'm sick, I'll always be sick, I'll always be on medication, I'll always this and I'll always that.
I don't deserve to be well.
Yeah. And you have to unpack that part, respect, you know, that. I love the idea and your concept of living in like symbiotically with your microbiome, the organisms, and restructuring that, sitting all those little guys down and saying, okay, we got to figure out how to all get along, right? Wow. Dr. Simone Laubscher, you're amazing. You truly are like my favorite and a total all-star. On the bus, I want to be on your bus and I want to be on your road to recovery, because you got it all figured out. You can get to Dr. Simone, rejuve.co.uk. She's a powerhouse. You can catch her on her Instagram. Thank you for joining us today. Healthy Hotline, the Lyme series, amazing contribution. You really got me thinking. And really, you know, honestly, I love respecting the whole moon cycle, like understanding that these little bad boys like to come out, you know, and have a field day. It's almost like, what is it? Like Mardi Gras, you know?
Yeah, it's their party. It's their once a month party pants, you know?
Yeah, a few days before and a few days after. And if you know that and you already felt it, many women, their menstrual cycles actually are timed with the gravitational pull of the moon, that shift.
Yeah.
So you can understand why all this stuff is at play. And then if you know it's coming, why not prepare? Why not, you know, sort of maybe do an intermittent fast and eat certain foods that are primal foods that are easy to digest, so your body is not taxed in that way? Why not do one of like your parasite cleanse, your para cleanse is an amazing. So here, you know, it's coming. And so you can sort of prepare with everything you do is organic and natural ingredients. And you've done all the heavy lifting for us in your formulations. And so we just have to follow the steps. So Dr. Simone, thank you so much for today and for everything you do, not just for the Lyme community, but just in your normal life and the way you think. You and your husband, you're like bookends. And the way that you truly take care of yourself, your family, and everyone you treat with respect and love. And it's amazing. Thank you so much for today.
My pleasure. And just one little caveat I'll say at the end is I had such an epiphany when my healing journeys of breast cancer and eating disorders and everything else in between, is that it's really easy to say love and be kind and let the stuff go. But as adults, often we can't forgive ourselves. So what I do, step one, there's a block, it's like, I know I need to renew my mind, but I just can't love myself because I have too much trauma and wounding. Tap into your inner child and think about the little you. And that will light the flame, because you can't hate your former little self. Innocent little toddler running around, hair a mess with, you know, toast on their lip. Start there and tap into that little person and start to think about that person and nourishing that person and building from that place, because I don't think any of us could hate our little version of ourselves. We do stuff as we're older and we can't forgive ourselves, and, you know, the whole list goes on. But that's my biggest thing, is that start there. Start that practice of self-love. It will grow. You'll be able to let things go. You'll be able to make space for the Lyme. You'll have unconditional love and understanding, which will allow that balance and that equilibrium. So I'll leave you with that, because
amazing.
As I said, that was my biggest block, particularly my eating disorders. It's like, oh yeah, I know it all, but I couldn't drop into my heart. It was like, there was a block, there was a heart wall. So just start with a little you. If it's too hard, put your hands on your belly or hands on your heart and just think about a lovely memory of you, and just build from there, and pick up your child and put them on your shoulders and do stuff together. Start to cultivate that relationship, and your healing will really be fast-tracked. So
love it. Love it. Hey, big shout out to Elle McPherson for putting us together.
Yeah,
and her
we love
line
you,
of
Elle.
Wellcat. Yep. And you know, your contribution with her to bring her whole line of Wellco, all those formulations, her elixir. I mean, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't spend time thinking about you and her as I am nourishing my body.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for today and everything you do.
My pleasure.
Super cool.
God bless.
Have an awesome day. Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Hey everybody, it's Robbie Bessner. Thanks so much for joining us today. Please share this content with anyone that you think might benefit from it, and we're looking forward to having you with us tomorrow for another great interview.